My last slide, which is something I dealt with this past year, apportionment. I haven't dealt with a lot of income tax issues. This is a nice issue because it deals with real estate. So a partnership or LLC, as you see in that first bullet point, rents real estate. So it owns real estate and rents it out. Operates inside Georgia, outside Georgia. The LLC sells some of the Georgia rental property, maybe a building. How should that gain be taxed? And that was the question posed to me. Should it be apportioned? Should it be allocated to Georgia because it's sale of one of the assets? In actuality, nothing is allocated unless it's held for investment. And this building wasn't held for investment. It was held for use in their ordinary course of business. But that doesn't mean that it's not taxed. It is taxed, but there's an interesting twist to it. Okay? So the gain, the proceeds from the sale, are put into the monies that's subject to tax. But what is affected is the apportionment fraction. Everybody familiar with how the apportionment works? We use gross receipts in Georgia. Okay, that's all we use in Georgia since 2008. And the gross receipts that you put in the fraction, in the numerator are gross receipts from Georgia, and then in the denominator it's gross receipts from everywhere. And then you multiply that fraction by what you have in sales, and that's or proceeds, sales proceeds, and that determines what's subject to tax in Georgia. But the way the fraction works in Georgia for this kind of scenario is that gross receipts for the fraction should not include any activities that are not in taxpayers' regular trade or business. And so this does not include the sale of assets unless selling assets is part of the taxpayer's regular course of business. Here, the taxpayer was not engaged in selling buildings in its regular course of business, so those proceeds from the sale of the building were not included in the numerator or the denominator. So it is subject to tax, but what is changed is the fraction, and that's what is reduced, is the fraction.